that it's going to be like a blowout?
No, I always thought a doozy was a good thing.
I thought a doozy meant it's going to be easy.
No, a doozy's a good thing in my book.
Oh, all right. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, sure. I think this is actually going to be a really interesting game. If it does mean that it's going to be completely easy for one side, not quite so sure about that one. So I don't know. Chat, define doozy for us, and then we'll get the feedback back from our producers.
I reckon we could get a search on the word doozy and get a Google Urban Dictionary definition of that, and we'll figure things out. But we have gone through the banning phase there. Thatcher, Nomad, Valkyrie, and Wamai all taken out of action. Interestingly, Maverick being allowed through.
Yeah, that's always kind of spicy when you see the decisions between, I think this transcends a number of different maps, but the decisions about whether you're going to ban Thatchers, whether you're going to ban Mavericks, whether you're going to ban both of them. It doesn't surprise me that Thatcher has been banned. Obviously, incredibly popular ban. It also doesn't surprise me that Nomad has been banned either, because of the aggression that you expect to see on these teams, being able to close off a lot of those abilities for flanking. I think probably is seen as more of a priority. It does, of course, mean that you do have more access to things like grenades for the utility clearing, and we see straight away Team 1 will be carrying 4 of those, the Sledge and the Maverick. So that is something that is there for them as a result of having not banned the Mav out.
Yeah, I think allowing that Maverick through, it just allows a whole world of possibilities, not only the grenades, but really easy to get things open now. Hatch has become, very, very basic. There's an argument to whether you need the Hibana or you can just totally rely on bringing an ace. In this instance, Team 1 have chosen to bring the Hibana and the ace, but they've also got a ton of soft destruction on there as well. We've got a Buck and a Sledge. Not often you see those two running in the same lineup. And of course, where would we be without a Zafir?
Yeah, of course. Although, actually, I think if I remember correctly, there were a couple of games last week where we did see Zafir being foregone by a couple of teams, and it felt incredibly alien. But that's not going to be the option here. KDS, who was actually one of the really good performers last week, he got 5 2Ks in the game that they played last week. So he can definitely perform. So having him on that kind of role, you're not bringing an Ashe, so he'll probably be playing a lot of the entry as well. That'll really facilitate that for him.
Early progress here on the roam clear as we see Destiny and STK working upstairs together. Alamo going to make his way on through into Armory. Now, I guess one of the biggest problems here with trying to extend on this roam here on Oregon is you've not got enough utility, you've not got enough reinforcements to really lock yourself off and get yourself safe up there. So you can get a chosen few, but with all this soft breach potential on the side of Team 1, it really feels like only a matter of time until a first pick or at least an engagement comes through. We can see the drones working ahead, Lagonis there, tempted to get himself on him, but as the Hibana, he needs to kind of hold back a little bit in that instance.
Yeah, you need to be careful when you're playing one of those operators that's carrying such key utility, because if you do get taken down in the early engagements, then you're kind of screwing your team over a bit later. And you can see these angles that are being held and set up here by Team 1. Neskin holding the big window means that those movements that will be available to Santos upstairs aren't going to be quite so easy.
I really like what Santos are doing here, Gio, because they've wasted so much time. There's literally 1 minute and 10 left on the clock, and they've still got Destiny playing upstairs inside of dorms. The site is all the way downstairs. It's not an easy feat now for Santos to continue to clear out on this roam. Alamo's got a couple of shots in there, but it isn't going to be enough to get him the kill. Already we can see a drop coming in. Destiny's retreated now down to the main floor.
At the very least, Destiny's wasted quite a decent amount of time. One of the Toxic Babe canisters from the smoke has come out to deter. As you mentioned, Team 1 don't have a ton of time left. SDK is downed, which means I don't know how many of those canisters he had remaining, but may not be available anymore. Cons finally the first death, as Alamau founds that. That could be the opening that starts to bring things back in Team 1's favor as they're down to the final 20 seconds. But with the STK brought back to life and still these defenders roaming the map, I don't know how likely it's going to be.
going to be quite difficult here. We can see the utility flying on in now. Nades and Toxic Babe canisters. Vertical angles being held as well. And Lagonis confirming a plant. 2 seconds remain and that plant will be locked on in. Unfortunately, we do see a team kill, but Team 1 are on the right side of things. They've leveled things back up and now a retake will ensue. Neskin, great vertical angle there onto STK. Hunter with the rotate. Finds the one upstairs. Goes for upstairs and gets the second. Tons of time left to hit this disable. What a clutch there by Hunter.
Team 1 are now going to be thinking, all right, we got to get rid of him as the first guy next time, because it's all well and good to be able to get the diffuser down, especially in those situations where there are quite a lot of the defending teams still up and alive. But what you then have to be very cognizant of is where those post-plant positions are. And it was great that we saw Neskin hold control of the angles upstairs with the sledge. He had the vertical holes in the floor. He could use that to try and deter and hold back any of the defenders that could potentially go for the diffuser. But when you've got Hunter around like that and with so much freedom to himself, it doesn't really matter if you're just holding one angle, if you've got some power. If you haven't cleared out those really key players, they still have the potential to do exactly that.
You just get the impression that Team 1 were chasing Hunter's shadow throughout the entirety of that round, because he was one of the guys that was upstairs at the very start of the round, just wasting time, holding angles, just making it so that Team 1 didn't have, you know, the run of the teeth on that top floor and to be able to make use of all that soft destruction. I think they're probably going to feel a little bit hard done to there that that's happened to them, because being able to break that down into 2 1v1s, essentially, there was no opportunity really for Team 1 to get anything out as a trade. Just real quick thinking from Hunter. And that's exactly what Santos need here tonight. It's put him on quite a good start.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thing as well, because you mentioned how he had the positions upstairs, but there was Destiny was up there as well, and they had the protection of the Goyo shields, which they've brought again this time. And because Team 1 decided to forego the really thorough upstairs clear, it meant that they didn't have to spend their utility clearing those things out. That's great for when they want to attack onto the site and they have the extra utility available, but as soon as you get to later on in the round and the defenders have been able to survive because that utility hasn't been expended to clear their own, that's when it becomes difficult as an attacker. So that's something on this round that I really want to look out for. When are Team 1 going to expend their utility, and on what?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because you get the feeling that they had quite a bit left in the pocket and they were trying to use the time and all that sort of stuff instead to try and get that first pick, and it just wasn't something that was ever going to happen to them, because Santos showed us really great patience there. And that's something that, you know, it separates a good team from a great team, is that ability to just be able to go, you know what, we don't need to do anything now. We can just sit tight and we can just hold our angles.
You know, I love the setup that they have downstairs with the Goyo shield behind the Aruni gate, because it's basically an ADS. You can't throw a projectile onto that shield from in front of it to clear it out without first having to clear the gate. I think that's quite smart, because it means the ADSs can be used elsewhere.
Team 1 this time have perhaps got a little bit more control, and certainly a lot sooner.
Oh no!
Oh, Lagonis there, just going to miss out on a couple of his pellets. In fact, nearly all of them, as I think he's trying in part to burn the gate, but that had largely been done. I think he was more trying to get a nice little angle going down. Neskin there with a big opener. Man of the moment, the man of the last round, is going to be the first to fall here as a very concise push starts to make its way through blue.
You can see STK is really holding on tight to this meeting hatch as well as the tower stairs. KDS sends down a lifeline, but actually both of the shields that are here in Pillar are still standing. So I don't know if that got something else or if it got cleared by potentially an ADS. There's finally one of the shields down, but also the Toxic Babe canister out as well, which will really slow down that push into blue.
STK with a nice angle there, and multiple crosses really being held from the side of Santos. Still utility to try and burn, as we can see Levy tossing through some grenades into the hatch, and kills still coming up for Santos. Rice finds a cheeky triple. What has gone on there? One with the SMG, two with the shotgun. Con steps up to the plate. Levy is going to be the last man standing. 20 seconds to play, so he has the time. Question is, are Santos going to peek him? Well, They are, but Destiny is better in that engagement, hits his shots and confirms the round.
Man, that was disgusting. I mean, yes, I think Santos actually still could have won that round without the 3K from Rise, but it's still always quite juicy to see something like that come up. And you could see the kind of approach the Santos were going for, and it wasn't even that crazy. It wasn't super unorthodox or anything. It's quite normal to see teams try and approach an attack from that side of the map, gain control of the meeting hatch, gain control of blue, gain control of the tower stairs. But once again, there was this problem with utility clearing. We saw a bunch of the X-Kairos pellets get wasted. We saw the lifeline on the tower stairs not really clearing out much. You know, if you'd have gotten rid of those shields more effectively, then maybe KDS would have had a lot more pressure onto Pillar. But the fact is, Team 1 never gained control of Pillar until right at the very end, where we saw Levy using it desperately as some kind of shelter from all of the defenders who were still alive. It's just not very thorough from Team 1, I think, is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, it's like they're really trying to hold on to things because it's like, oh, this frag grenade's got a load of value, this could be a kill. But the reality is they're never going to get themselves into a position to use that frag grenade if they don't jump through all the hoops and pass all the obstacles that Santos are setting up in, you know, to be dealt with in the mid-round, the early round, and whatever, just before the final execute. I love the bans coming out from Santos as well. I've just had a quick glance over it again. They were the ones that got rid of the Wamai. But it seems as though they've gone, yeah, we'll get rid of the Wamai. We'll give them that sense of security. They're going to bring the nades. And then we're just going to play a oNe instead because that's going to do loads to eat up more of that utility.
Yeah, I mean, they just look quite comfortable at this point, and it means that Santos have been able to come over to their third site without much of a care in the world. There's a nice early opening kill, and onto Alamount as well. The bucket has been lost, and I'm assuming he was carrying the flashes, which these days are kind of rare on teams, at least compared to what we saw at certain points of last year, after Ash lost hers too. So a lot of that utility that could be used to burn things, not there.
Levy's managed to get himself into Attic, and it looks as though he's going to be fairly safe over there. Neskin able to hold from the other side, all the way from Highway Window 2. So the likelihood of Attic getting open is going to be quite high. There's a nice push now manifesting itself from Armory as well, as Neskin's got himself in and around that area. Obviously, Iana with the clones can push on through. Looks as though the wall has already been opened as well, so there's much more pressure much earlier here from Team 1. A C4 there just going to miss out, unfortunately, for STK. But Team 1 are really harassing in the early round now, and I like to see it.
And I think they really need to, because of the aggression from Santos as well. The fact that they have been able to hold so much control. But I love that I love that Santos is so willing to hold these angles really close, and we're seeing it pay off. STK getting that kill straight away as well. He's been really, really key for this sort of thing. Down goes the shield, but Cons isn't going to back off too far, although finally moves back into the kids' dormitory. He's taken a lot of damage, but Rise is there to support.
Lagona's just going to hold the angle now against the smoke. It isn't going to be a pretty firefight if this does ensue. Rise is just going to hold it there with the shotgun and can continue to do so for quite some time. I think a nade maybe just got tossed in by Neskin. As Team 1, it seems, are almost starting to doubt themselves here. They've made most of the journey, but they just can't get that final execute. They can't find that final niche in the armor to really push on in. It looks as though Attic's going to get stacked up on, but not a great deal of time remaining. Kill's going to trade in either direction. Cons was only one shot there, but that's still going to feel pretty good for Santos. Look at how many people they've got left alive. 4 versus 2 now. Lagonis, he's going to be the next person to challenge on in through this Attic area, and he's likely to meet the same fate. A shotgun at point blank range. Rise confirms another. Now it's a 4 versus 1, and Neskin, he has the world to do. Goes for the swing. STK, second kill on the round. Nice little headshot coming in from the Mozzie. Santos are looking unstoppable here on Oregon.
Santos are reading Team 1 like a freaking book. Every single time Team 1 peek around a corner, or they look around something, or they take a swing, someone from Santos is there and they know exactly where they are. Every single time, it is always the Santos player that is winning out those engagements. It's crazy, and it must be wildly frustrating for the players of Team One. And this is the second time now as well that we've actually seen, or at least to this extent, the attack be done from those traditional routes. You take control of games, you take control of Attic, except Team One are going about that, but they're never getting the control. The control is still being held despite the fact that they're pushing into those correct parts of the site.
I don't think there was a single player from Team One that was anywhere near white stairs in that last round, or big window for that fact.
It didn't get there yet.
But that's a really easy place to get to from outside. If you have one person in that location, you just cut a big crossfire through the entirety of the site. All of a sudden, movement's restricted by nearly half. And if you're inside of dorms and kids' bedroom or attic, that's where you're now going to stay. The fact that nobody was pushing at the top of your screen there, the big double window, nobody from Team One was pushing that window. So it really meant that it was so easy for rotations to be made from Santos, and they could just apply themselves where they were required.
Yeah, Team One need to share themselves out a bit more, because even if the approach that they're going for is, you know, we have a couple of guys doing this bit and a couple of guys doing this bit and we can support each other, they're not being successful in that support that they would be looking for. So you might as well go off all on your own, but ensure that you're holding more angles and so that you are denying those rotations and you are holding crossfires, because as you say, Santos are just given so much free space to look after themselves.
Let's see how Team One approach the problem that is kitchen and meeting. Quite a popular site here in Latin America. It's one that is regularly picked. What is going to be their plan of attack? Looks for the time being as though Levy's going to go for the old little Maverick trick on the attic wall, get a bit of access to that. Sometimes an area that's contested by defenders, but in this instance it doesn't look to be, although there will be vertical angles now being made by Rise as he looks to try and restrict that access somewhat. Rise, of course, got a C4 as well. Oh, in fact, he's already swung the C4, so the C4 won't be a factor here. And I bet he wish he had it.
Destiny holding on from the kitchen. A couple of changes that have been made by Team One are the decision to bring Thermite and the decision to bring Yana. Now, Rise might be able to catch someone out here as the Maverick is just trying to open up the bottom to shoot out presumably a mute jammer. Has been successfully done, and so far no one caught out. And there's the use of the Thermite that you're going to see. So the meeting wall is just completely opened up. It means that there's not as much space to hide for the player who is in there. That is going to be Rise still, as Team One start to push on forward.
Destiny getting a bit brave there, challenging the long angle. No one really on the side of Santos in a position to immediately challenge, though, aside from Destiny. It looks as though the rest of the players are maybe getting themselves in a position for a cheeky little rotate, and Rise is going to be doing just that. Lagonis is going to find first blood onto STK, someone that's been popping off this game for Santos, but look at the positioning on Rise. He's in such a dangerous spot. He's going to swing and find one. Will he get the second? No, gets taken down. Another kill swings in the meantime from Destiny as the C4 is in the hands of Hunter.
Eskin just on this 1v1 in the garage. Con's trying to catch him out. There's a 3 versus 3, and Lagonis once again going in for the plant, but he's given up. We saw him successfully get the plant off in round number 1, but actually he takes damage. This isn't looking safe for him to do it, and Team One are down to 2 men. Moving in together, they managed to get the player who's present in kitchen. That's Destiny. He had the safety of the shield, and Lagonis has got to go for the plant, despite the fact that Alamau is down. They just need to push on forward. Not very difficult to clear him up. Team One tried, but yet they find themselves 4 rounds down.
Team One just coming up against brick wall after brick wall, realizing they couldn't plant inside of the meeting, making that last ditch attempt to get a plant down inside of the kitchen. And while the players on the side of Santos had that information, they had the call, and you could see just how quickly they were all moving toward that position. Santos 4 rounds to 0 here. Team One yet to find a round. It's not looking very good for them at this moment in time.
And it's crazy. You think this is the team that went toe-to-toe with FaZe Clan just last week, and they are struggling this much. Now, one thing that we just saw in the replay there, with the crossfire that was available on the tower stairs, yeah, maybe it was a really ballsy play from Rise to try and sneak up on those players, but it's one of the few examples that we've actually seen of Team One pulling something like that off.
Yeah, we've not seen a great deal of trades at all from Team One. Rise there, I think he played that beautifully because he'd used his C4, he'd obviously used his mute jammers. He knew that there was nowhere really for him to escape onto. With the hatch being open, it just makes so much sense to make that rotation and see if you can get a quick kill. In the instance, he got the kill onto Levy. I'm not sure what Levy exactly had in his pockets, so to speak, at that moment in time, but there's potential for Levy to have a couple of frag grenades there, which heavily influences how the round then continues to play. Team One are going to be frustrated. Nothing they're able to do at the moment is seeming to stick. And Santos, well, they can do no wrong.
So Santos this time haven't actually brought the oNe, so the setup that they had last time is going to be different. They've decided to go for the mute Mozzie, so they're going to have a lot of that info denial, and as well as Legion, which will make it harder for Team One to push and get aggressive. Now, what's also really interesting to me is the fact that Destiny and STK, who are playing on those really classic kind of roaming operators, they've been two players who've really stood out to me so far because of their positioning, but also because it's often those two who are sheltered by utilities such as shields that doesn't get cleared out by Team One. So this is going to be a very interesting one because they've kind of targeted the way that, or the things that Team One are going to need in order to have that information, while also still having those players who have been protected, who have been playing really well.
STK was the only player at the start of this playday with a positive KD, on the side of Santos, and I've got a feeling there could be a couple more if it does continue in this fashion. They are currently getting hunted on this top floor by KDS as Alamo goes for a bit of a rotate. Jumps in his drone at such a dangerous time. STK plays it passively, gets himself on into the classroom and escapes with full health. Can't help but think that could have gone very, very badly for Alamo.
I mean, Ollie, look how many drones are gone on the side of Team One. And halfway through the round, you've only got 4 left. I mean, there's just so many that have been obliterated off the map, and they're nowhere near the site yet.
Still trying to drone out this first floor as we've not got a full idea of where anybody is. And as you say, Gio, that's just going to get more and more difficult with dwindling information at your fingertips as an attacker. Levy doesn't even know that rear stage is clear, for example. There isn't a flank drone that's going to be able to watch that for him. He's now manually making sure that no one's going to make that rotation, because with the way that Santos has been playing, I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Really risky position for Team One to be in. Now trying to position themselves in a place where maybe they can come and attack through blue, but they've got to do it blind and do a lot of face checking. In goes a C4. Is it going to catch them out? Well, Rise gets really low, so the C4 didn't work and he nearly loses his life, but he eventually gets a kill for his troubles. Neskin's trying to peek around to maybe get the trade, but he has to move on. He does get the kill, however, and this means Team One maybe could capitalize, but it's still a backwards and forwards. A 2K from KDS leaves just Cons and Hunter as the last two remaining on Santos.
Neskin finds Cons, and well, it's all now down to Hunter. 11 seconds. It is doable for him. He's got to try and deter this plant from going down. Lagonis once again, for the 3rd time this match, is going to try and confirm. Hunter gives his location away. Doesn't have much intel to play with. Swings and finds the headshot onto KDS. Can he get the pistol kill? No. Walks into 2. Neskin with the cover, and Team One pick up their first round here on Oregon.
Oh, I mean, it was a really pressurizing situation for Hunter at the end there. Like you said, it was possible, but when 2 guys kind of spring out at you at the same time, you've only got your pistol, it's pretty difficult. But it shouldn't really have taken Team One that long to get their first round. I think if they get the next one, then things have sort of gotten back to a kind of more balanced state of the universe, but it doesn't negate any of the problems that they had in their previous rounds. And I don't think by any means that round was particularly clean. It wasn't like Team One just suddenly changed their game and were playing incredibly well. We mentioned how the drones were a real issue. They didn't have those flank drones available to them, but it was more kind of the aggression that was exhibited through blue low, I think, especially when you only had Rise there to try and battle back in that. And Team One just sort of tried to funnel manpower through that avenue of ingress. That's what made it work for them.
Yeah, that was the real difference maker, and you mentioned at the start of the round that the oNe wasn't picked again. That kind of played in as well, I think, because it made the hatch a little bit more viable. I mean, the site did turn into a meat grinder for the first for the 20 seconds or so before the plant went down at around the 30-second mark. It was just constant flashes and kills and bullets flying. Really, really intense stuff. But as you say, Team One did a good job there of acknowledging that it was actually blue that was left a little bit light, and with only a Mozzie there, there's only so much Rise could do. I thought it was incredible that he was able to get the one kill that he got. He was on absolutely no health, but still swinging and pre-firing like the best of them. Managed to stem the flow for a time, but it just wasn't quite enough. I'm sure that Santos aren't going to be too worried about that. I don't think they're going to be too upset that they've managed to let one slip, but it would be very nice with the way that they've played so far for them to come out of here with a 5-1 split and really start to put that pressure on Team One a little bit more.
Now, back up to kids' dorms. This is where one of the big problems we discussed before was the fact that Team One were trying to apply pressure onto the games room wall and onto Attic, and while they weren't really gaining much control because Santos weren't relinquishing it, they also didn't have anyone positioned on the key locations such as White Stairs or Big Window. And I'm wondering if that's something that Team One will rectify in this round. So far, a minute is down, and they're still just trying to deal with the fact that they know that there are roamers downstairs. But Team One so far in this game have proven that they're kind of willing to just ignore those roamers if time goes on long enough. So maybe that's something they will repeat again.
I quite like the challenges that we're seeing from Santos as well, like those extremity challenges, almost like just pre-firing out of doors and windows and just putting the doubt inside of the players on Team One's mind that this isn't free real estate. The building isn't a given. Your access here isn't granted. You've got to come and earn it, and you've got to come and get through us if you want to get in. And I kind of like that really aggressive stance that we're seeing here from Santos. I think the attic's going to get opened up. That much is going to be known. Nice little nade hole going to be made here by Levy as well. No doubt for him to toss on through a frag grenade. There are players on the side of Santos at the other side of the attic. It's where we saw a lot of the kills and a lot of the action go down last time we saw this round.
Now you can see the pings coming out, spawning out the Evil Eye. So you know that Team One are at the very least looking for that utility to get rid of, which is a problem that they have had. The X-Skyra is going to be straight away just zapped off of the wall as they try and open up Trophy, which is going to pose a problem because Lagonis doesn't seem to have been too lucky or fortunate with the use of the X-Skyras so far. A C4 did come out. Cons is still holding on to his, though, trying to hold the angle in through the Trophy wall as well. But Levy is the first one to get the kill, and that is straight onto him.
Seems as though in this round, Team One have maybe got the upper hand inside of that attic area. I'm not sure what's necessarily gone wrong for Santos, but it doesn't seem as though they've got as much pressure over there as they would like. They're now left trying to battle back a little bit. We can see Rise is taking on some gunfights. KDS pushes in and goes huge, finding two before getting cut down by the Alder, and it will only be the Alder remaining. Neskin picks up the final one, the same as the round before, and Team One are going to be very happy there with a 4-2 split.
Yeah, I think they've had some redemption towards the end of that. And despite the fact that it's not the scoreline that they would maybe like to have seen at the half, I think one thing that they can probably take away is the fact that it was an adaptive thing. So they could make those adaptations at the end to deal with the problems that they were faced with. And that is a very important thing when you want to be a successful team. It is much better, in my opinion, to have the 2 rounds that you won be rounds 5 and 6 rather than rounds 1 and 2. Because it shows that you can out-adapt your opponent rather than them out-adapting you. And now Team One have moved on to the defensive side. They may find a little bit more fortune just because of the way that Oregon is. But that said, back in the map ban phase, we discussed how they were getting rid of those more defender-sided maps like Villa, like Cafe. So maybe for their playstyle, it's just not where they'll be more comfortable.
This is where we need to see Santos finish this game as strongly as they started it. Because for my money, Santos have been that team that have struggled on attack. Now, it's something we often see with teams that are developing. It's much more difficult to find that synergy and to find it quickly and efficiently on the attacking side rather than the defending side. Defense usually comes fairly easy to teams. Attack is where teams tend to struggle, and that's where you've really got to build on that teamwork and that synergy and all the things that make a good attacking side. This is what we now need to see from Santos, because they have had lackluster performances on the attack, and I think that now really is the time for them to finish this game as strongly as they started it. They've managed to pick up 4 rounds on the defense. That's great. They've put themselves within almost striking distance of that match point. It's all about how they go forward now from here.
It's interesting as well that they've gone for a different approach attacking-wise to what Team One did. We're seeing the Twitch be brought out for the first time today, as well as the Ace, whereas Santos were much preferring to bring Hibana. They brought Thermite as well to pair with the Maverick when it was on the meeting defense. This is down in the basement, so they've just decided that the Ace with the Selmas is much better for them. Also will facilitate a smoke plant. That's something that they decide to do, not something that Team One had available to them before.
Not a great deal of drones left remaining for Santos either. It's something we criticise Team One for, so it's only fair we draw everybody's attention to it here and now as well. 3 drones left, over half of the round remains. So Santos potentially going to be a little bit dry of information. Now, I'm not sure if that does take into account the Twitch drones. I would imagine that it doesn't, so there's opportunity there for the Twitch drones to gather a bit of intel, but let's be honest, they're going to be used on the front line, should I say, and they're going to be used to try and get rid of some utility, get rid of a Rooney gate and disable it, whatever it might be doing, as whatever Santos have decided to bring it for. So just got to be a little bit conscious of that. Time is looking quite good for them, but they have got quite a bit to burn on through. We see the hatch gets opened, what's underneath it? Another Rooney gate.
Straight away burned by the nade of Rise as well. Hunter just trying to apply some pressure down onto the laundry stairs. Sneaking down once again. And we got the smokes ready from the Twitch into Freezer. So it looks like Santos are really preparing for a push here. No one has died yet. This is actually quite a long time for everyone to be alive. And just as I said, STK is the next one to be brought down. That's the Twitch. Lagona securing himself the first kill. And now they're just trying to hold on to the angle into Freezer as Hunter is going to follow down.
25 seconds and we're now seeing our first player of the side of the attackers get themselves into Freezer. There's an argument as to whether that is good enough or not. Look at all this utility soak that they are now going to have to go through in very little time. Hunter grabs a big one over onto Levy, but the kills continue to come for Team One. Alamo gets one, Cons responds with a second. 6 seconds left. We need to start thinking about a plan, but we're not even going to get there. Team One clean up in terms of kills, waste out the time and take the round.
Yeah, Team One starting to add those numbers back onto their tally now, as the differential between the 2 rounds is only 1. And they just looked quite untouched for a lot of their defense there. As I mentioned, it took a long time for the first kill to be achieved, and that was by Lagonis of Team One onto STK. And Santos were trying to push down, but it sort of didn't account for the setup that was in the center of the site. You still have those shields that were present in Laundry. I think that maybe one of the lifelines at the end was for that, but it also did see it open up the closet wall, so I don't know if maybe they were just both for that instead. But the point is that there was that safety and security for the defenders in the site at the time that STK pushed down into Freezer. And it's great to have smokes that can conceal you, but in a way they do also give away your location. And if you're not applying enough pressure onto defenders from other angles as well, they're still gonna have the advantage in something like that, because all they need to do is shoot into the cloud. And if they're not being pressured at all either, it doesn't really matter. They're probably going to win. And sure, Santos applied some pressure down into Laundry straight after that, for example, but it all has to be coordinated. It all has to be at the same time. And that is, that's the concern that you mentioned before, about the fact that on attack, those flaws in your coordination will become far more obvious.
Yeah, and I think we saw a good example of that, as you've explained there in that previous round. And it's about how Santos come past that. How do they grow and develop past that team that is going to struggle on the attacks and pulling in that same direction? You know, you take a look over at the lineup that Team One are bringing. It's very similar to the lineup that we saw Santos bring in. There's a lot of denial in there. We've got a smoke. Those Toxic Babe canisters, they're going to deny 15 to 20 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, of area denial. So you can't really push through that as the push comes in. If he's got a couple of them left in his pocket, all of a sudden it's going to be a big old problem. You can already see this round shaping up to be a little bit more aggressive because we've got early gunfights ensuing. Alamau is very low, really, for a Maestro in this early part of the game. We've only seen a minute of action, and it's not going to take much splash damage from a grenade to see him gone. Obviously, just eating up a little bit of early bullet damage. As a push has been quite aggressive, really, from Santos. I think they've already got the wall open from bedroom, so they're already looking to really try and make that challenge. Attic, interestingly, being left soft as Levy finds himself a beautiful down through the long angle. Where's the push going to come from Santos?
Well, Cons is going to try and do it straight in from Trophy, and he does make that work. Great that he was actually able to push up because of the soft Trophy wall. It was one of the things that I was going to mention as well before you did, is that's a big difference between how Team One and Santos have set up that. It means that you still have those angles that can be held in from Attic, but I suppose in that moment, it didn't matter all too much.
STK now looking to try and challenge onto the door. Instead, draws for the drone. Again, not a great deal of droning left on the side of Santos, as one's going to get taken out and leave them with only two. Cons left holding onto the angle. I'm sure that in this instance, Santos are going to have a reasonable idea of where players are, as it doesn't seem as though anyone really on the side of Team One is moving. It's almost the calm before the storm. There are 40 seconds left. Cons has made his way on into the site, looking for some sort of surety, but with the floor being open, he doesn't want to make a plant on a bare floor. Instead, two players will come up huge with a couple of kills. A C4 is going to swing below. It will miss. The plant confirmed. Neskin in a clutch. Where have we seen this before? Malusi versus a couple. Can Neskin make this happen? Everybody knows at this point where he is, and it's going to be quite a tricky one. Not a great deal of health on Destiny or Hunter. More than doable for a player of Neskin's caliber, but in this instance, Cons, not only the plan, but the final kill will do for him, as Santos reply and find a big round on attack.
Yeah, and again, you kind of see that the characteristic aggression come out from Santos in that round. And yeah, I like how you say, you know, it's entirely possible of a player of Neskin's caliber to be able to achieve this 1 versus 4 situation, but realistically, you can't expect something like that to happen. Even if he weren't killed from the position that he was, they could have sent someone around to flank behind and catch him. So I think once that diffuser went down, it didn't really look like it was going to fall in Team One's favor. Santos are going to be really happy with that as well, of course, because it means that they've pulled away from the risk of Team One catching up with them and making that round count equalize. That gets them one step closer to match point. But with Team One coming down to their tertiary site of dining and kitchen, it means Santos have got to do one more approach, a different kind of approach to try and get to that point. And I think that this is a point that is somewhat underrated, and that is the fact that it's all well and good to have secured success attacking one site, but as soon as you move on to the next and it's a new site, you have to do something new. So you have to prove in a different way that you can consistently bring those wins in. And that might sound really obvious to some people, but the thing is, when you're a team like this who maybe used to being in the bottom of the scoreboard and you're having some luck and fortune on one half of your game that you're playing, if that starts to wane in the second half, it is small things like that that are going to matter.
I really liked how we saw an aggressive Santos early on in the last round, and I'd like to see that again from them here. I think there's potential for it, particularly with how Team One have set up. They've made a good use of some surrogates there, as kind of half reinforced the wall, half surrogated the other, which is going to just provide something nice to peek from. It's not quite a mirror window kind of setup, but we're edging toward that kind of idea. But there's real potential here for Santos to try and play a little bit more aggressively, and that really worked out for them. I think putting the pinch and the pressure on Team One nice and early really did do them quite well in getting some early advantages, even if it was only a couple of hit points advantages over Team One, and just putting them on the back foot ever so slightly. Now, as the round has developed and we're already a minute in, it looks as though Santos are going to be a little bit slower and a little bit steadier, as there are still 3 of them out by that yellow bus. A nade's going to get tossed on through now as we see some utility burn coming in. It maybe is going to destroy the shield. No, not quite. It's not even going to get past the Wrigley tin metal that is against that drone hole. That shield will remain. That's a problem that Santos have spent quite a lot of time on at this point.
Last drone as well for Santos. It feels bad that the droning issues have been something that we brought up for both of these teams a couple of times now, but it certainly is one that's quite pertinent. You cannot be at this point in a round and only have 1 drone left. It's just not enough. And especially with all the defenders still standing as well. You can send in the stuns, but Santos are just going to get aggressive. There is somewhat of a trade though, as Cons will go down straight after Hunter gets that kill. Destiny as well. So their aggression is getting punished by Team One.
Oh, you just hate to see that there for Hunter, don't you? Chasing the yokai drone. Can't find the angle. I think he may have got it now, but a second one comes in. Rise swings his way on in. It's going to be a huge difference maker as he finds 2 leveling things out. STK and Rise going up against a less than full health Levy from above, but Levy wins out that. Everyone knows how good that high ground is, and he really makes it pay. STK getting cut down in the sight as well. Levy from above doing all the hard work there for Team One.
Levy actually, he rotated upstairs relatively late, just earlier on in the round. In a lot of cases, you'll find someone be present at that hatch from the get-go. And it wasn't that it was really a problem because no one from Santos was in a position for that to be an issue. But you always expect at least one attacker to go and apply some pressure upstairs because that hatch is, it's just a standard place to have a defender sat. But no one in Santos was sent up to deal with him. And I think that was definitely a flaw in their approach. And instead, we just had, you know, the Great Battle of Showers 2021, which I think that at this point, or at least when we look at regions like Europe, that's a part of the site that, yes, is still very important to gain control of, but is kind of been cleaned up in how you approach that. And a lot of teams will actually relinquish the control early and late reinforce it off if they feel like it's going to be a risk. Whereas this time it was just a bloodbath because Team One didn't want to let go, which is fine, but Santos have got to have a more smart, succinct, clean way of taking that space. Otherwise, they're going to lose a ton of players whom they can't use later on. And that's exactly what happened.
It was kind of like watching kids fight over a toy. Like, yeah. It's like both children want to play with the ball, and they're kind of just like backward and forward and on the ball because like neither one can decide that, like, you know, you can play with it now, we can both play with it together. You know, who knows? Like, let's like live harmoniously. It was really one of those situations, and something that Santos forgot right up until the end is the vertical control. Like, there was just nothing. There was no vertical control at all coming out from Santos. They had all the tools to be able to do it, and now it seems as though frustrations are settling in, or at least they're going to start settling in because they've just lost 2 opening kills.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, last round they sort of ended up in this only 3 men remaining kind of situation, and Rise got a 2K, which kind of brought it back a bit. But again, it's one of those things you can't always rely on. And this early in the round too, it's really not great. And when you're attacking down onto the basement, it's so important to have all those different angles of pressure. And if you've only got 3 guys left, that's really hard to successfully do when you have like a full atrium of players in the basement just ready to take you from whatever angle you present to them.
This is like 300 Spartan stuff all over again, really, isn't it? You know, can the 3 of Santos go up against the might of Team One? The location that they have chosen to push is going to be blue, but look at all of the utility that they have to wade on through. There's 2 angles at least being held onto that double doorway. And I don't think that either of the players on the side of Team 1 are going to try and get all too aggressive. Con's trying to find an alternate line of attack, goes for a bit of a swing, lets himself be known, and gets taken down in the firefight. Doesn't even find a down for his troubles, as all these kills are coming up Team 1. Rise now, 1 versus 5, 1 minute remaining, and this is to level things out at 5 rounds apiece. It's going to be the closest that Team 1 have come to being in control of this game at all, as they've been fighting from behind the entire time. Rise, it seems, is going to take this opportunity to just have a chat with his team, as he doesn't look to be doing anything other than try and stay alive, and honestly, he is probably wise for it. Going to eventually decide to make his way through, maybe find himself a few exit frags, as he's well known for these narrow angles, and he makes that one work. Can he find the second? Does he have the intel? Ironically, a lot of drones remain for Santos inside of this round, where we've usually seen them burn through those drones quite quickly. So had there been a couple of people alive, we could have actually seen them do something here. But back to blue he goes. You just get the feeling that this final 20 seconds isn't going to be a pretty one for him, as he pushes through the laser gate, gets cut down by Lagonis, and Team 1 finally level things up.
Not the position that Santos were looking to be in, of course, because now they could potentially be the ones fighting from behind, and whoever wins this next round will be on match point as well. So a very precarious place to be, and when you're having such a tumultuous attacking half as Santos are, at this point you can't sit there and be cocky or confident about the fact that this is your game, as maybe they could have been in those first 4 rounds that we did see of the play day. So all the way upstairs, Team 1 will be going for their next defense, and they'll probably feel more comfortable now that they've managed to even things out, and you're sort of on this blank slate once again. That said, when they came to this site on round 8, which was the last time they were here, they didn't win it.
They didn't. We saw early aggression from Santos. The question is, do Santos still have that fire within them to be that aggressive and confident team right now? Because they've lost quite a few rounds here, and they've come out of a reasonable advantage, a 4-2 split, and now they're leveled up at a 5-5. Okay, that's fine. It isn't too unusual for Oregon to swing into the side of the defenders. But have Santos got it within them now to play that same aggressive dormitories attack that we saw them bringing in round number 8? Because I'd quite like to see that again, and I know that they're capable of it. I really hope that they don't, like, retract into their shell here. We need to see some good stuff coming out from them here.
I would also like to see that. It looked like Team 1 may be setting up a bit differently. They're using the Soria gates as well. I saw something on Reddit about the pronunciation of that, and now I'm really paranoid that I'm getting it wrong. Well, KDS taking a bunch of damage, actually a ton of damage. He's down to the last HP of health. That's not good, because he's been relied upon for a lot of his aggression, his ability to get multi-kills, and his ability to roam successfully. That's a lot to have taken that early.
Looks as though Santos are going to be applying pressure on the majority of fronts possible here, which is always nice to see. We've got Roamers being cleared out downstairs, as Neskin has been droned. He's did a Selma, but he's got the hatch to make the drop through. STK was watching for the rotation, but it's a rotation that won't be happening. There's so much attention here being paid by Santos to this first floor, as they're trying their best to clear out those Roamers, because they know there are C4s available on the side of these defenders. Albeit only one, but it's still something that they want to try and get rid of, because the vertical angles have hurt them quite a bit in this game.
Yeah, I mean, if you remember correctly, even when Santos got into the site and Cons was looking for somewhere to plant, he was being really careful about those vertical holes that had been opened by Team 1. They know how much of a risk that can be. In the end, it didn't turn out to be a huge problem for them, because they were able to successfully plant and take the round. But look, we're in the last minute, and in terms of what's going on upstairs, they've just kind of not really had much tickle them. Santos have tried to clear out pretty thoroughly downstairs, but you can only hold these angles forever, Hunter, before you've got to move, because this is not where the site is.
It has been a strange push from Santos. They've left themselves a lot to do now. They've They've essentially won every engagement they've taken because they've dealt a lot of damage and they haven't received any, but that doesn't mean anything unless you start getting the kills. SDK opens the account with 1, but instantly kills start coming back from the other side as well. KDS, well, it was only a matter of time for you, I'm afraid, as you were only on 1 health to begin with. Alamo, a huge important kill there, instantly traded once again. These trades from Santos are second to none. The diffuser has now been planted. Neskin again in a clutch situation, this time a little bit more favourable 1 versus 3, but they still know where he's going to be coming from. Has got a C4 in hand, takes a huge portion of damage as he's left with no other option but to keep wiggle peeking onto the doorway. Santos, those guys are on match point now.
Yeah, Team 1 are going to be very frustrated with that. I think the fact that Cons was able to put down the diffuser without any kind of hindrance at the same time that all of these trades were going on elsewhere, that's crazy. I mean, Team 1, I understand that you're preoccupied because someone's shooting at you, but you need to deal with that because that happened last time. They put the diffuser down and there weren't enough people left alive after your fights to actually be able to deal with the post-plant in any way. That is a real problem. You have to ensure that you're taking those fights where they matter and killing the people who are doing the important things. Because if you know that you're not going to be able to hold up in a post-plant situation, don't let the post-plant situation happen in the first place.
And here we sit. Santos have got themselves onto a match point. They started this game exceptionally strong, taking 4 rounds in a row on the defense, and they have finally started to get themselves together here on attack. Now, our biggest criticism, Gio, and I think I can speak for you in this one, was the lack of vertical pressure when Santos were previously attacking onto this site, kitchen. It was a battle for showers, and we weren't a big fan of it. What do we need to see them do here?
Well, I would like to see them go and pressure the player who's holding the hatch in kids because Levy was just left there to be free. I mean, even opening up the office floor would be nice so that you can hold some of those angles through down into not only dining, but also the rotate entrance into showers if the players of Team 1 are going to rotate out. It was Alamau who was holding on really hard there last time. Maybe having that extra angle from above would have been able to provide some pressure and make your attack onto showers a lot more successful and efficient. That's something that Santos just really, really lacked. I mean, Levy, straight away, he's upstairs again. Someone needs to deal with him.
Look at how mobile he is as well. He's not got a care in the world. He's got the entire top floor at his disposal, and he can just go from peeking window to peeking window, and eventually he's going to wind himself playing a vertical angle and maybe the hatch, or maybe both, depending on what has been set up for him. Once again, we're seeing Santos battling for the showers area, the unkillable deployable shield, it seems. Has it been taken out this time as nades are getting bounced around like some sort of mobile game? Just to get to that corner, the shield finally has gone. So Alamau maybe not going to be feeling as secure, but still a lot of players outside for Santos here. And Levy constantly a threat.
Got rid of one of those flank drones as well. That's pretty important because that's something that Santos have significantly lacked in their attacking rounds because of how quick they have been losing a lot of the drones available to them. They keep trying to put pressure on this window just outside of showers or just outside of security. I don't know what people refer to that window specifically as, but it hasn't really got them much. You can hear walls trying to be opened. Hunter gets a nice kill onto KDS as the pressure seems to be a bit more efficient this time. And a minute remaining, they do have time to play with.
Good opening kill. KDS has been getting a large part of the frags on the side of Team 1. Santos now looking to try and get some smokes in and maybe even a plant. Hunter's been downed in the process, but the kills keep coming in for Santos. Downs don't count at this moment in time. Santos, they have an advantage here as C4 is going to get tossed out, and it will hit its mark as Destiny falls. Alamau looks to push his way on through showers, finds a second. This guy is going huge from inside of that zone. It's now an advantage over toward Team 1. Cons trying to make something happen. Goes through the gate, drops the diffuser cold. Alamo goes huge. STK now got a lot of work to do inside of 50 seconds. Looks as though everyone on the side of the side of Team 1 is full health as he swings his way through, finds the kill onto the pesky mute. Recovered the diffuser now and has 16 seconds to look to work with, but once again, doesn't appear to be dealing with all too much information. Can maybe go for a hop or a rotate on into the site, but it's unlikely for these two defenders to line up perfectly for him. 4 seconds remain. Levy with the final kill. Team One are taking this all the way.
It really was a backwards and forwards in terms of who had the advantage in that round, I think. And while I preferred the way that they tried to attack onto the showers this time, because it just seemed a bit more coordinated, it still didn't get them where they wanted to be, and they still lacked that vertical pressure that could have become very useful, especially at the end there when there was just STK and there were two guys in kitchen. If the kitchen had been cleared or maybe had another angle held from above, then STK would have perhaps had an easier time being able to do that. But Team One's ability to just really resolutely hold onto the showers and cause such a bloodbath, because despite the fact that STK came in and got a kill onto the mute towards the end there, Alamau particularly just held onto that area so strongly. And it was something that Santos just spent so much time getting caught up in. But this time, because we're heading into overtime, because it's now 6-6, Team One will be continuing on their defensive side, and they're heading down to the basement.
Is that the win condition, Gio? Is Team One getting defense first on overtime going to be the difference maker? We've seen so many defensive rounds won here. You can't help but think that they've got the edge moving into this one now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be way more important for them to have the defense at the start than it would be to have the attack, just because of the difference in success of their two halves. I think even though it was 4-2 on both halves, just the way that those wins were achieved, their defenses seemed a lot more definitive, and the wins that Santos got on attack didn't seem quite as clean as the couple of wins that Team One got on attack. So for Team One, this is definitely the advantageous way to begin things, but that of course doesn't guarantee anything.
What is it with the players of Team One and just standing in front of the windows? We've seen Levy there lose 25% of his health just because he was stood in front of the wrong window at the wrong time. These players on Santos pre-fire the windows. You better believe that there's bullets flying through if we're at least 15 seconds into the round. Once again, Team One taking a bit of unnecessary damage, but we'll see if it comes back to hurt them or not. Santos have done a reasonable job of attacking down here. I think they won one downstairs, or no, they've actually not won anything downstairs. I think it was close in round number... no, it wasn't close at all, actually. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong note line. Yeah, it's not been close down here at all for Santos. They have struggled dearly attacking onto this basement. Last time they lost 2 opening kills, and the time before that it was the first attacking round for them, and they just had a really soft attack that never really accomplished all too much. This time we need to see a little bit more aggression. Already half of the timer has gone. It doesn't seem as though they've got much really to write home about. I'm not sure if they've even got hatches open at this point.
Sounds like, well, there's Rise, who's dealing with the meeting hatch, so he's got one open now. I mean, I think it's good that they still have all 5 players standing, because I think it's Santos who would have that problem where they lose a couple of early, and then they would have to try and push in aggressively, and it didn't really work because there would only be 3 of them. And even back on round number 7, where we saw them try to go for the freezer push without clearing anything in laundry first, it's been very, you know, strange and not entirely, you know, well coordinated, the way that they've tried to push into this site so far. And every single time, Team One have kind of just been left where there's all 5 of them just remaining on the site, and they can adapt to however they want. But we are seeing kills go backwards and forwards. 2 for Levy, though, so that keeps Team One in the stronger advantage.
KDS there, he's going to get taken out on side of elbow. Team One still with an advantage. The diffuser cold is going to get recovered. Live ping information for STK to work with, but he isn't quite quick enough. Goes for the swing and gets taken down by Levy, who finds the final 2. And Team One continue their good fortune downstairs in laundry. They've defended exceptionally well down here. Santos now an opportunity to switch over onto what has been that more favourable defensive side for both of these teams. but it really isn't looking great.
Well, I was going to say I'm fully expecting them to go to meeting, but right now it looks like they're going to the basement. The reason why I expected them to go to meeting is just because that was the only site that Team 1 didn't win at all on attack, whereas they did actually successfully take Laundry back in round number 5. So Santos clearly feel quite strongly about their approach this time. Now, this is an interesting thing as well to note. They just 6-picked onto a oNe off of Maestro, which was actually a change that they did have on that round. Originally, when they came down to this site and they successfully defended it, they were using an oNe, but they switched to a Maestro the second time when it was unsuccessfully defended, if I'm not mistaken. So they've kind of dangled in front of Team 1 the idea that they're going to bring the same operator lineup and do a same approach to when Team 1 won it, but in fact they're reverting back to the time that they successfully held the setup.
It feels like in this match we've almost reverted back to the 20-second meta with the way that these teams have just been so slow to get themselves into a position to do anything on the attack. And I think it's a criticism that rings true for both sides, is that there has just been, especially when attacking onto Laundry, and we've not really seen much of a roaming presence. There's been a lot of the round spend in the initial setup, and still loads to try and do and burn through at the end. Cons this time is going to be as close as we've seen to some sort of roamer, as STK finds first blood onto Levy. Losing the Maverick, it feels very, very sort of doom impending, I guess. No hatch is going to be getting opened, or at least you're going to have to make decisions now as to where you're going to deploy those X-Kairos.
Yeah, and I believe it was Lagonis who we actually saw have some troubles with his X-Kairos at one point, trying to attack onto this site and sending them down into the E-box below. And we did speculate that he was potentially just trying to burn some of the oNe gates, but also there is the potential that using just 2, you want to have a little nade hole to get rid of a shield that was present behind. So either way, it wasn't didn't really get any walls open with it. But there's still plenty of time, around half the round still remaining. But Team 1 didn't prove to be particularly good at clearing utility, and that could just stay the same here.
Are we seeing any sort of increase in tempo here? It's a big round for Team 1. They've got all the potential to take the game here and now, but equally, for Santos, they're going to want 2 points at the end of this. I don't think they'll be satisfied with just the 1. Once again, we can see Lagonis struggling. I'm not too sure what his game plan is with that. KDS going to find a kill. Swing for a second as he confirms 2 more, picking him off with the pistol, no less. It's surely a nail in the coffin for Santos. The 3 versus 2. 2 kills come in response. That's a huge, devastating blow. Neskin now looking to try and make use of his grenade. We've still got Alamo upstairs. Neskin hits that grenade over onto Hunter. It's now all down to Rise. We've seen him go massive so far on Smoke and Mute, looking for the challenge. Going to get baited out there by the clone and give his location away. There's a lot of time here for these attackers, and they ain't going to need too much of it as they find the final kill. Team 1 confirm the game. What a hard-fought win by those guys.
Oh, man. Team 1, they're going to be the team of overtime. That's what it is at this point. Every single game they play, because it's what we saw last week. It's what we're seeing now, and it was a hard-fought victory. And Santos is going to really hurt them as well, knowing how close they potentially were. It's a nice look at the scoreboard. Some, just so many double